You know what just 5-0'd in Legacy? It's Polymorph. Hello folks, Phil Gallagher aka ThrabenU here for another Legacy video, and today we are going to try to polymorph some tokens into big scary creatures. So I know what you're thinking. Well, that's a 4 mana card. I know, I'm a little bit skeptical too, but POW22 just 5-0'd with Polymorph in Legacy. In case you don't know how this one works, you destroy target creature, and we're going to be targeting our own stuff here. And then its controller reveals cards from the top of their library until they reveal a creature card. You put it onto the battlefield and shuffle everything else in. So we are going to look to flip something big and stupid, and Archon of Cruelty is going to be our go-to here. But first, we are going to need some tokens to flip into. And this is where Staff of the Storyteller comes in. This has quickly become a legacy staple. It's a little bit slow. The first one of these is unimpressive, but as you get more copies of these, they really snowball out of control. And when you get to the third one and a token you produce is allowing you to do, an ancestral and draw 3 cards, it feels maybe not oppressive. That's not really the right word because it is still relatively slow, but it is quite strong. And this isn't going to be the only way that we're going to make tokens, because we're frankly going to need more than 4 token producers if we're going to rely on Polymorph as our primary win condition. And that's where Shorikai Genesis Engine comes in. For 1 mana, you get to draw 2 cards and discard a card, and then you make a pilot creature token. And while that might not sound that impressive on its own, remember that we are built around Staff of the Storyteller. So for 1 mana, we draw 2, discard 1, so that puts us up a card, while also putting a counter on every single copy of Staff of the Storyteller that we control. And eventually Shorikai can turn into an 8/8 beater. It takes a little while to get there, but it's relatively strong if you do actually get to that portion of the game. This is the core engine of our deck. Let's take a look at everything else that is going to hold the deck together. This is probably a great time to mention that today's video is sponsored by PlayEDH, a fantastic Discord server if you were, say, interested in playing Shorikai in a 100 card format instead of a 60 card one. We'll take a look at them later. Generally speaking, we are playing a blue-white control deck list. Notice there's not a splash color here for a volcanic island. We're not playing prismatic endings and blasts in this deck list. Instead, we're going to go other routes for our removal, and we want to throw a couple of ancient tombs in the deck list because honestly, some of these cards are just a little bit expensive by legacy standards. And we also do have a fan favorite in here, Shark Typhoon, as yet another way to make tokens or otherwise create a large creature. We have the usual suite of just generic blue-white good stuff, your brainstorms, your ponders, 4 swords, all of that stuff. Although we do have some spicy stuff in the sideboard, most notably an Elesh Norn Grand Cenobite with fancy new black and white art. And that looks like a weird inclusion at first, but remember, we are a polymorph deck. While in most matchups we are going to be looking to polymorph into an Archon of Cruelty, as it's just a great source of card advantage, in a matchup like, say, Death and Taxes or Elves, where my opponent's creatures matter a lot, I can polymorph for what is likely to be a board wipe, and that can be pretty strong. We do also have a Karakas in our deck list, so I guess we could bounce our Elesh Norn and, cast it again if someone wants to use a removal spell on it. But, that's probably not happening here. So we're going to see if we can put some wins on the board with Polymorph in the year 2023. POW22 did 5-0 with this deck list, so it's at least somewhat proven. And I'd like to thank Teddy for giving me a dealer's choice donation deck list to make this happen. All right. As always, likes and comments mean a lot to the channel. And if you are in the financial position to support me, you can do so via YouTube memberships, a Patreon subscription, or by getting a sweet deck list like this on the channel through my dealer's choice donation program or whatever. Details about that are on the website if you want them, but let's battle. Okay, I'm going to go ahead and keep this hand. I think it's valid to ponder for a land here, but I'm just going to keep this so that I have an emergency stop for Force of Will, since my hand is so white heavy. Bayou? Bird. Bird can occur. I think I'm not going to fetch here. I think I'm going to start this game on... Oh man, I can't play Staff of the Storyteller if I don't Tundra. Alright. The curve feels important here. Specifically because, like, I have this second staff. I don't know. I guess I'm going to need so much white mana this game that I might want to Tundra anyway. Tundra Plains is fine. I can keep a fetch for later. And we'll just staff it up. This whole thing begins. Nice Force of Will. That got scary fast. I think I need to remove this. Do I naturally draw the card first? So I can natural card draw into Brainstorm into 1 mana removal spell. I think that sounds fine. 2 mana removal spell, right? 2 mana removal spell here. I keep the Force of Will. I could probably keep the Force of Will with 2 copies of Staff here. Like, do I just want to redraw this stuff? Like, do I want land drop 4? Might just want land drop 4. Yeah. I don't need to reduce costs. Let's go ahead and take out the Shepherd. And I'm just going to do this right now so that my opponent does not have an extra mana for Gaia's Cradle. I think that's important. Dryad Arbor, 3 mana. I don't want to risk this being Collector Oof and losing access to my 2 copies of Staff, so that's just eating a Force of Will here. I'm fine taking 1 damage. Now, do I want to draw that Teferi? I can draw Teferi, bounce Elvish Reclaimer, keep Spirit Token back so that Teferi doesn't get killed. I really just want 1 mana interaction rather than a 4 mana bounce spell. With Gaia's Cradle there, just doesn't do a lot. I'm going to go ahead and fetch, grab Tundra. I'm going to go ahead and start by drawing a card. It's a little unexciting here, but the Staff might just immediately draw me a blue card. It drew me another Staff. We're gonna draw some cards, but my opponent now has a window where they can do something big and dumb like a natural order before I have access to Force of Will. So that's scary. Seems like we've dodged. Excellent. Blue card? Just basically any blue card would be cool. Land, I guess, makes Force of Will hard castable. Am I fine with that? I think I'm fine with that. I'll just swing in for my 2 points of damage, and we'll call that good. New Dryad Arbor, which I imagine the Bayou just gets turned into some other land here. Urza's Saga. Alright. That's good value. This is so big. Is it just the hoof? It's just the hoof. Fetch. And we'll go ahead and force that. I do still take 4 points of damage this turn. Which is not insignificant. This can 1 mana get rid of an Urza Saga, right? Yes. Sick. I will go ahead and play a Staff. Get a Spirit. Put a gajillion counters on Assorted Permanents. Go ahead and draw some cards now, just see if it changes my options. Go ahead and draw another card. I'll make that as a land drop. It's not particularly good right now. But nuking Urza Saga is. If I pump the brakes, probably attack with at least 1. I think I attack with 1. Opponent is at 12. Once Upon a Time is fine. A new Elvish Reclaimer. I am in this zone where my opponent can absolutely just natural order me at any point. Alright, and Newton's going to go ahead and just hold back. Do I have a sweeper in game 1? No. No, I don't. I'll go ahead and start on a ponder here. I mean, I don't think I can not do that, right? I think I will go ahead and... I don't really want to take this Ancient Tomb damage, though. How much is Archon across 2 turns? 12, right? 12. I guess I don't even actually have to attack. I'll hold it all back and see if Newton Elves has some nonsense land that is going to disrupt this polymorph. Alright. Opponent says hello, YouTube. Yup. Osage a staff. That's fine with me. I'm going to leave a Tundra in deck in case I specifically need to fetch one. Let's get a Plains with this. Alright, opponent goes to 8. Oh god, I drew swords. That's good. Alright, so my opponent can go ahead and get a new land. I probably swords a creature here. I put them to 11. I have 9, 10, 11 damage exactly still next turn. Do I just want to take Dryad Arbor? Dryad Arbor taps for a mana and is a mana for Cradle, whereas this is just a mana for Cradle. Yeah, this also just makes Archon alone lethal without the spirits needing to attack. We're doing the thing. This deck is working. My opponent's off natural order, and we take game 1. That felt really good. So do I put Elesh Norn into my deck? I can polymorph into it, and it sweeps a lot of the board, but not all of the board. It's not going to remove like Elvish Reclaimers and Fiend Artisans and stuff, but it will remove a lot of annoying things, you know, your Grist tokens and things of that nature. I think I want Elesh Norn Supreme Verdict. I'll probably just play this as another removal spell. I don't think I want Spell Pierce. Like, it has things that it's quite good against, but it's dead against a lot of stuff. I think that gets me Supreme Verdict and Wandering Emperor. I go down 1 Archon of Cruelty for 1 Elesh Norn. I think I'm just going to keep 2 creatures in the deck. Like, I can play just Elesh Norn to always hit it, but there's this problem where if I draw a creature and I don't have a Brainstorm, my polymorphs become dead, so I think I still want 2 creatures. This feels a little slow for this matchup as well. I could play this unplayable legacy card as a counterspell to Natural Order and Green Sun. I hate this card, but it's in my sideboard and it seems appropriate. It's just like such a trap to hold up this card if you have something else to do with your mana. Is that just better than a Force of Negation? It might be. A little weak on the draw. My hand is unimpressive. I'm going to keep it. I will pretty aggressively Force of Will here, kind of hoping that my opponent does not find Allosaurus Shepherd. Oh, we get just raw Pithing Needle on Staff of the Storyteller, presumably. I don't have one right now. Oh, that's weird. I don't have Prismatic Endings. Alright, I think without Prismatic Ending, I just do that. It never fails. I have 2 of these. Yes. I think I bury Island here. I'd Polymorph. So on turn 3, I cycle Shark Typhoon for a 1/1 token. On turn 4, I Polymorph. I have that guaranteed if I don't fetch. If I fetch, I disrupt the guaranteed 4th land. So it looks like I probably don't have to fetch here. I'm going to play out the Flooded Strand just in case my opponent fetches an end of turn Dryad Arbor, which they did. I am now comfortable fetching. It just kind of feels like my opponent has a crop rotation. Like, I'm going to let them go to their turn. This gives them access to 2 mana at instant speed. So, like, they can maybe cast a Once Upon a Time here, but I don't know. Like, it felt like bait, and I didn't want to be wrong there. Okay, opponent started to tap a land for something, and then just opted to pass the turn. I think I'm just going to cycle Shark Typhoon at their end of turn. And then I have 2 draws to hit a land to just naturally polymorph. That occurs. And let's see what else happens. 2 mana for a green sun. I'm going to go ahead and cycle this in response. Another polymorph is not what I'm looking for. There's an Allosaurus Shepherd. So I have whiffed on the land. So I think I'm probably brainstorm into March of Otherworldly Light in this turn cycle. There's a land drop, so I can remove 2 of these creatures, which is really good. So to do that, I need these 3 cards, I need 1 polymorph, and I will have to fetch. That probably means getting rid of Force of Will polymorph. Okay. That's fine. So let's fetch. This can be a Tundra. I think I want to take out Allosaurus Shepherd. And the other one's harder. I think it's just going to be Dryad Arbor. Mana value 0 or less. This does have mana value 0. That works. Crash in for 1. The argument for getting rid of Elvish Reclaimer is that Elvish Reclaimer can potentially live through me polymorphing into Elesh Norn rather than Archon of Cruelty. Alright, new green sun. Things are uncounterable again. It's just going to be Urza Saga time. It's just going to be Urza Saga time. Alright. Go ahead and crash in here. My opponent goes to 18. I can play Teferi and bounce Urza Saga and see if my opponent is not going to attack Teferi. The only card that's a problem here is Snuff Out, but I'm just going to go for it. Aha! Nice. So this also invalidates the Urza Saga tokens, as my opponent controls no artifacts. And this is kind of what I was talking about thinking about going after the Elvish Reclaimer instead. That's pretty good. So let's go ahead and start here. Bounce the active Elvish Reclaimer out of play. You may absolutely create your construct token, which dies immediately. I'll make a land drop. I don't know what sort of nonsense the Urza Saga can get. I'm just going to go ahead and take that out. Yeah, okay, my opponent is willing to throw in the towel there. GG's. This was an impressive showing.
Today's video was sponsored by PlayEDH, which is the largest Discord server for finding webcam EDH games. And kind of what makes them cool is they have these preset power levels that you build at, and they do like sort of mini deck checks on you to make sure your deck level is the appropriate power level. And that creates really good, balanced games. Even if they did tell me I had to take some of the cool cards out of my Preston combo deck, I did still have a great time playing with them. So consider checking them out.
So I've got a little bit of a clunker here in that I very much need Brainstorm to do Brainstorm things to get this Archon of Cruelty out of my hand. But these are very reasonable Magic cards that I'm looking at. I'm going to probably want Source of Plowshares next turn a huge portion of the time. I'm going to bury the extra Brainstorm and keep the other 2. I was pondering hoping to hit land drop 3 there, or find a Force of Will. Alright, I don't end up wanting the Swords to Plowshares immediately, but I still might want it in my opponent's turn cycle. Aiga. Could be a Storm deck, could be an Orcish Lumberjack deck. I'm going to respond to that. I would Force of Will this. The Archon of Cruelty is going to go back. My current plan involves Teferi bouncing that Sylvan Library on my turn. Second Polymorph goes back. I get a basic and just let that resolve. All right, we have polymorphs for days out here. We're just gonna stay on basics for right now. There's a decent, oh, that's great. There's a decent chance that my opponent is playing Wasteland in their deck list. Like, this could very easily be like a Knight of the Reliquary deck list of some nature. Yeah, we're saying no to that. Force that, pitch a polymorph. Hope my opponent doesn't realize that I just threw a polymorph into exile, because it's kind of wild. Plus this, because I have things like Staff of the Storyteller to hit, I am going to go ahead and brainstorm right now. We will put back 1 Swords and a Tundra. And my current plan involves cycling a Shark Typhoon at the end of my opponent's turn into Polymorph for Archon of Cruelty. It seems like we very potentially are playing against something in the lands ballpark. Get my shark here. Oops, all polymorphs. So I plus this. My opponent doesn't get to respond, so I can go ahead and safely do an attack in for my 1 point of damage, then drop a land, polymorph my shark into an Archon of Cruelty. Yeah, that feels good. We've got Spell Pierce and Swords to Plowshares available. Yeah, you can copy my land, that's fine. Yeah. So I don't have the best feel for exactly what my opponent's doing. I don't know if they have bodies like the Knight of the Reliquary that I'm going to need to get rid of with Supreme Verdict. I don't know if they've got something like Minsk and Boo that they're going to go aggro with. I haven't seen Spheres yet. Spheres would be a little weird alongside Punishing Fire, but they could be a sideboard option. We've got things to think about. I don't think I'm going to play Elesh Norn or Supreme Verdict. Wandering Emperor can exile a Merit Lodge. I'm probably down for that. I probably need to be thinking about Force of Negation and Surgical Extraction. If my opponent has Minsk and Boo, I care about Blue Elemental Blast and Hydroblast, and if they don't, I don't super care about those. I'm probably going to Spell Pierce out, Saheeli out. That gets me these 3, and then I'll be thinking about a couple of surgicals, just so like a Life from the Loam or Punishing Fire loop doesn't just mess up my stuff. Because Punishing Fire on these tokens actually matters a lot if Polymorph is going to be my primary win condition. I don't know what to cut from here. I like every card in my deck at this stage. Like, this is slow, but matters a lot for things like Sylvan Library. So I can't cut that. I can't cut Swords, can't cut Ponder Brainstorm. Don't want to cut these, don't want to cut these. Is this necessary? A repeatable source of creatures in a match that could go extremely long. Yeah, don't play Surgicals. Like, I legit don't know what I would cut for it. I could cut 2 Shark Typhoons. I don't know, it's so good to do the end of turn 3 into turn 4 though. Maybe I do something like this. And rather than cut anything, I trim 2 things. I could also see getting rid of an Ancient Tomb here. This is fine. I'm a little heavier on the spot removal side of the equation than I otherwise might like to be. Oh. That's a March target. Oh, that's also a March target, though. That's rough. I think on turn 2, I'm probably going to have to pitch my Swords to get rid of that. Mainly I don't get ported. Maybe I have to play a fetch land this turn. Yeah, maybe I have to play a fetch land this turn so that I don't get Rishadan ported because it's so catastrophic. That's really awkward. Don't get maximum value out of my turn cycles. I waste a mana. And my opponent will already have drawn 4 cards off Sylvan Library by the time it gets back around to me. That changes things. Would I rather... I could pitch that instead of Swords. Yeah. As much as I love the value of my cards here, I think I've just got to do this. And then I can go ahead... I said that poorly. As much as I love the value that something like Teferi offers, I think I just have to use my mana here. I think I'm interested in just instantly surgicaling that Urza Saga and never having to deal with that. I'm going to set a stop in my opponent's draw step to surgical that. Although, if they tap Mox Diamond... Oh. Sure. I'm finishing the thought. Since they tapped Mox Diamond and Crop Rotation is now not available, I'm going to go ahead and just surgical this. Oh, I'm getting choked. Okay, there are Minsk and Booze. Alright. The good news is the choke is only going to stop one of my lands for the time being. And I do have a Teferi. What the hell is this? Oh, it was my opponent tapping for the wrong color of mana. Yep. How am I beating this Pyroblast, though? I did play around Crop Rotation for Urza Saga, by the way. Yeah, just not really a fan of what's going on here. I am going to go ahead and just take out that creature. Okay, they are not going to upkeep or Schadenport me. Is my opponent... If I don't cast a fairy, my opponent just crop rotations 4 Dark Depths, makes a 20/20, and kills me. So I think I have to play this Teferi here to stay alive. And I just have to feed this to a Pyroblast. Doesn't feel great. Wait, that's just a misplay, right? Yeah, that was just a misplay. Or no, because of crop rotation. The floating, so they crop rotation in response off this. Yeah, they have to get rid of... Okay, no, it's not. Shorikai. Yeah. I think at this point, I am comfortable conceding. I just don't see myself getting out from under the choke. Like, Punishing Fire stops Polymorph outs, crop rotation gets my opponent to a win condition quickly. Blue Elemental Blast and Hydroblast are for basically 6 cards in my opponent's deck, but they are very important cards. Minsk and Boo and the Pyroblasts. It's hard for me to cast my thing that matters and then also protect it. There's one choke in there, and I just had... There's also a Paradox Zone. I just had the misfortune of being on the wrong side of it here. I'm going to go down a Swords to get a little bit of variety here. And then I'm going to call that good. Yeah. I am going to need lands. And there's going to be some times where I just miss on lands and lose the game for it, but it looks like this is not going to be one of those times. I am going to let that happen and then march it. That's fine. I don't really want to expose this to Wasteland. My opponent does have 4 of those in this deck, but I also want to be able to brainstorm and shuffle. I think it's too important to be able to do 3 mana plays next turn 100% of the time. So let's just junk the exploration. Yeah. I think I let this resolve. I don't feel good about it. Oh, they don't actually have that many lands. JK. I'm not going to let my opponent know about Caracas yet. Go ahead and play Tundra and pass with the intention of Shark Typhoon. Make a shark. That happens. This is why I've got a couple of surgicals in the deck. It never fails. So let's go ahead and sorcery speed brainstorm here. Force of Negation is great for Punishing Fire. I have to just redraw through all of this stuff. I'll make a land drop and pass. And my opponent will bounce that to hand. Maya is no big deal. That gets a Force of Will. And I'm hoping that I don't have to use Force of Negation on a Pyroblast here. I'm holding this Force of Negation to get rid of a Punishing Fire long term. Can't. Absolutely can't. That's just gotta be forced. Alright. My hand is relatively weak right now. And my opponent's going to use their excess mana to just start hedging Blast Zone against some higher CMC. I might just leave it at 2 for staff, honestly. That's fine. Polymorph plan is kind of fully off the table for her right now. So let's do other things. No to Polymorph. Wandering Emperor is awkward against Punishing Fire. I'll probably take it still. Like, I can Shark Typhoon, have a 3/3 that lives through Punishing Fire. My opponent's actually pretty constricted on red mana, so they can't Punishing Fire, buy back, redo easily. I don't really know that I want to draw the second Polymorph, though. I think I accept it. The manual tick down Dark Depths. Now yuck. I could also just cast Shark Typhoon, but my opponent is about to have 4 looks at a 1 mana way to destroy it, so I don't think I do that. Alright, cycle Shark Typhoon. I've got a 3/3. I want to immediately put it into play, plus turn it into a 4/4. I think so. Hate that Yavimaya is in play, by the way. Alright, Shark gets bigger. Dark pressures your life total. Taking damage. Alright, there's stage and depths. I have Caracas and swords as ways to mess around with that. Yep. You've got a 20/20. Oh, life from the loam. That's gross. I mean, it resolves. End of turn. I'll bounce Merit Lodge. Being at 22 specifically is quite nice here. I'm gonna go ahead and continue to shark it up over here. I want Wandering Emperor to be at higher loyalty for purposes of living through Punishing Fire if this game ends up going on longer. Alright, no extra cards taken with Sylvan Library. The Dredge. Dark Depths is back. Alright, Loam happens. Am I starting to just create a second token here? I guess the token just eats it to Punishing Fire, so the answer is no. 6/6 first strike, Flying Shark. Alright, opponent goes to 1. Like a land drop, pass the turn. I have 2 things that are good against Merit Lodge. My opponent can Blast Zone up to 4 to get rid of Wandering Emperor. Ah, that works too. There's now a Blast Zone with 0 counters. And a Blast Zone with 4 counters. I may lose this game from 1. Dark Typhoon does it pretty easily. Shorikai probably does it pretty easily. A staff honestly probably gets me there too. Alright, 2 land drops. And we're chilling. Force of Negation gets that life from the loam. So my opponent pops a Blast Zone. And they'll pop the second one as well. Yep. And I'll just be passing the turn here. Got too many things that I would like to Force of Negation here. My hope is that my opponent cracks Dark Depths. Then loams. Do I want to fetch a basic here? I don't think that super matters. Let's just get that out of the way. As Grafdigger's Cage has super bitten me in the butt here. Alright, now I have Insulation versus Minsk and Boo. But, like, my kingdom for a brainstorm here. Crop rotation occurs. Our opponent's going to wasteland my... Oh, they're going to go for Urza Saga instead. Guess that makes sense with me at 23. Okay, and they're going to go ahead and copy that. This is a pain in the butt. Like, I have 4 cards in hand, none of them do anything. I can't really concede, though, because, like, I am so very close to just stealing a win without my opponent having access to Blast Zone. Like, a 1/1 token kills my opponent. Port's annoying. Taps down my Caracas and forces me to Swords to Plowshares. Alright. Brainstorm can do a whole lot here. That's a shark that attempts to kill my opponent. I will put back 2 polymorphs. This gets ported. I need 5 total mana to go towards this. Need 1 mana. I'd like to do this in a way that doesn't give my opponent this 20 life, if possible. They might not make this. Thinking about whether or not I cast this Ponder. I think I don't. Alright, end of turn, they tap this down. I will float a mana. I will give them priority. They make a construct. I'm not going to swords that. I have a Shadow Spear to deal with. Let them make a thing. I think I fetch both times right here. I guess these still tap for mana due to Yavimaya. I guess I don't have to fetch here. There's an Expedition map. Guess that's fine in theory. Take this hit. Go to 19. Cycle a Shark Typhoon. Oh my god, I planned this to leave up Red Elemental Blast, and then I forgot about it. Yeah, I specifically planned this so that I would be able to make a 3/3 Shark to avoid this while holding up Reb, and then I didn't do it. I think I punted the game for that. Welcome back, Polymorph. I punted the game a second time because I brainstormed and forgot to shuffle off these. That was not a great turn cycle for me. Alright, I will take a staff. Fetch. We're on Tundras now. Draw my card off staff here. Surgical Extraction, that's not great. I want that other March of Otherworldly Light. So I need to Blue Elemental Blast that. A2 life to surgically extract it. Yeah, there's only 2 of those. So I am now forced into a chump block situation. Yeah, I punted this game, and maybe the match because I'm much lower on time than my opponent. Alright, so they're going to copy another land to keep that ability and keep this going. Oh, my opponent punted back. They don't have another artifact to fetch. This is not a lethal attack anymore. Yeah, I will take 15 and kill you in the air. Yeah, they needed to make the construct so that these are all 6/6s and represent lethal this turn. Unless this last card is something that removes Spirit Token. Okay. They don't have a Mazavith. Yeah, I think they punted. Alright, yeah, they found a Wasteland. That's not gonna do it. I'll attack for 1. Oh, I punted that game really badly, despite, like, very clearly knowing what the winning line was, but my opponent punted it right back. That was a very long and grindy game. It's not surprising that we both made very critical errors towards the end of that. GG's. Alright. No. We need blue mana for opening hands to be keepable. This is fine. I think I'm getting my token this way rather than the Shark Typhoon way. And we'll go ahead and keep a March Vista. We're playing fair here. I mean, like, technically I don't know that they're playing fair. You know, could still be a show and tell deck very easily. That's a little too expensive for right now. Alright, real talk though. Do any of you have a standing desk that is on carpet? What do you do about your chair? Do you have a mat for your chair that makes it less comfortable while you are standing there and doing stuff? Do you just deal with standing on the mat? Put something else down? Seriously, let me know in the comments if you've solved that problem, because I am currently working through it. I think 1 March goes back here. Oh, maybe it doesn't. Maybe I just throw back Shorikai. Such a good source of card advantage, though. I'm going to throw back 1 March. It's just mana inefficient. We're probably playing against a Bant control deck. Like, I expect end of turn Icefang Coatl. Nope. Alright, there's Uro. Okay. So, do I want to play around like a back to basics in game 1? Seems relatively free to hedge against one through the second copy of March after shuffling. Watsy's bug enthusiasts down in the comments below losing their minds. It's staff time. I'm not willing to force it. That is a good trade in my direction, since I still just do have Shorikai as another source of card advantage. but my hand's really awkward. Alright, Shorikai, let's go. Let's start pooping tokens everywhere. No. No, I needed this. Damn it. Okay. So my opponent has drawn an extra card off of their Uro. They're about to draw another extra card. I can then pay 4 mana to march that out of the way. But my opponent already has gotten like great value off of that Uro. They've drawn 2 cards and they're going to take one of my marches. Oh, there's more. Probably just a ponder. Really though, the carpet is cushy to stand on, but I need that mat so the chair doesn't destroy my carpet. I think I use a mana inefficient card here while I don't have anything else to do with my mana. Oh fuck, there's fucking Caracas. What I get for thinking about my comfy feet. I don't know, I don't really want to take 6 though. Ugh. It's just not good. It's just not a good situation. I just have mono dead cards in hand for the most part. Oh, this doesn't get rid of planeswalkers, right? Yeah, no. Cool. So this is a great example of like the real control deck versus a control deck that is trying to do something cute. A control deck that is trying to do something cute that like requires putting together an A plus B is oftentimes not favored versus the control deck that is just more refined. Oh my god. Alright. End of turn Icefang Coatl, I can't swords now. Ah. Okay, cool. I am glad we got some basics earlier. Life from the Loam is a thing that could very reasonably exist in my opponent's deck. Yikes. Uh-huh. I'm gonna just take another couple of hits from the Icefang Coatls before I fire off some Swords to Plowshares, I think. Like, fighting over the Uro matters so much more. God, no, with the Teferi in play, I can't, like, march into swords or swords into swords to protect from Caracas. Like, that's just not a thing that's gonna happen. Oh, shit. Okay, so everything I said about my opponent's deck being an optimized control deck was just wrong. Alright, so in case you don't know this combo, Mist Hologriffin can be cast from exile and do infinite things with Food Chain. My opponent has told me that they have an Emrakul. I'm going to choose to believe them and concede the game to them. This is, yeah, thank you. This is a absolute pain to click through on Magic Online, but each time you sacrifice the Mist Hologriffin to Food Chain, you net 1 mana. So, bad news for fans of exile-based removal. All my Swords to Plowshares and Marches look very bad versus Mist Hologriffin, which can just be cast from exile. So, yeah. Archon's also just, like, not the best in this matchup. I wish I had, like, a sideboard Emrakul or something that couldn't be targeted with Swords to Plowshares. I guess my opponent's got Caracas, too. So bad at answering a Food Chain this played out, but I want to cut this card because it's just not mana efficient here. I think I'm going to cut that. I'm going to play Wandering Emperor, Supreme Verdict. I probably need some Force of Negations. I'm going to split those with Force of Will. I can Mystical Dispute in this matchup, but it's not going to counter a lot of things. It might be better than Spell Pierce. It misses Food Chain. Cut this every round. I'm probably going to continue to do so. It's just going to get pressured by my opponent's creatures. I don't like the side of the matchup that I'm on. This is maybe fine. I'm gonna drop a Caracas and pass. Alright. My opponent was willing to force this last time around. This time it does resolve, which is cool. Looks like my opponent's got a 2-drop of their own. Or maybe a Ponder. Nope, it's a 2-drop. What are we looking at? A Green Sun? Oh no. This card is Savage in this deck. So this is a 2-mana draw 4 cards because you put 3 cards into exile that can be cast from exile. So that's going to be 3 copies of Mist Hologriffin. I Yeah, I'm interested in doing this, I think. Go ahead and just get staff to tick up a bunch so that in the not too distant future I can draw a bunch of cards. So now each turn I have essentially 2 mana, draw 2 cards, make a creature. That's pretty good as far as fair stuff goes, and I'm going to be looking to find like a polymorph to really put pressure on my opponent's resources. Or alternatively find a force of will for a food chain, which I just really won't be able to beat. Okay. Do I shock myself in here? I think I'm into operating at sorcery speed here. Discard a land. That puts a counter on this. I think I'm going to draw a card normally first. I think I will ponder, looking for polymorph, force of will, or force of negation. Those are none of those cards. I don't think I need the staff here. Let's just shuffle. There's force of will. I have Teferi up for it. And I have a swords for an Icefang Coatl if my opponent would like to play one of those. They would. I will just swords this to make a food chain in the future worse. Oh. They've exiled a brainstorm to cast this force of will. That occurs. Alright. I want to save this for the food chain that I suspect is coming. Oh, the Icefang's just coming at my life total. Sure. Absolutely not. No. Okay. So the food chain's in play. Food chain can get them up to 3 here, which is not Mist Hollow-Griffin. Okay, they have that. Alright, my opponent doesn't have a kill this time. I'm gonna jump to their end of turn. They're gonna make a couple of Mist Hollow-Griffins. Okay, so after a whole bunch of clicking, they have 4 creatures in play. I've got work to do. Let's start digging. I will discard an Ancient Tomb. Puts a counter on staff. Draw a card. It's a plains. I am not dead, but everything's real bad. So I guess my hope is to weather the storm for long enough that I can attack with this twice. I'm gonna need to like remove this and then Supreme Verdict. So I'm gonna let our opponent gain some life. And these just go straight to exile. So there's that. This is a bad situation. And I'm gonna go ahead and jump to end of turn. My opponent is going to have all these creatures back in play. Okay, this is half of what I need. I need to get rid of this food chain first so that my opponent can't keep bringing their stuff back. So let's draw a card. This is so many lands. Draw 2. Polymorph helps buy some time. I'll discard a land. Or Polymorph. Please resolve. No! So next turn, I have to draw a March. How many? Oh no. Oh no. Oh, do I have another out to a food chain? I can Teferi bounce. I can Teferi bounce and then nuke all of them. Okay, it's fine. It's not fine, but I have an out still. All right. All right, so they just get to dig for protection here. Dig deep. Okay, looks like my opponent is going to untap their creatures. Oh no, actually, they found an Uro. Got something else to do. So I'm going to skip ahead again. My opponent is going to make an Uro and then will replay all these creatures. Alright, so my opponent has Uro in play. They're going to cast a Manipulate Fate, just take some kind of crappy cards out of their deck. Yup. I'm not going to bounce Uro end of turn. I'll just send that to graveyard if I do get to do my thing. My outs. I'm comfortable conceding the game here. Like, I can Verdict and make my opponent do all of this again, but I don't realistically think I beat everything that's going on here with Nullrod in play. GG's. Alright. I don't think I threw this back. I am unexcited by this opening hand. I'm just gonna lead on Flooded Strand and pass. I don't know, maybe I'm supposed to lead on Delta. Delta's better if I have to brainstorm, but it's so incredibly rare that I should really need to brainstorm on turn 1. Okay. My hand does not look good against these sorts of cards. Oop. Got a little lag burst there. Against basic Swamp, I can probably find a Tundra. Like, especially Swamp and Lotus Petal at the same time. But some of these mono black lists are kind of wild. So I'm going to still grab Basic Island and Brainstorm. I'm going to put back Ancient Tomb. And I'm going to put Staff on top so that I can draw Staff if I need to. I will never need Staff if I want to, I should say. But I don't really know yet whether or not I'm facing down like opposition agents or storm stuff. Like, I just don't have a feel for that yet. I'm going to play Tundra. Fetch, triggering my opponent casting opposition agent if they have it. Yes. We'll swords that. I guess at this point where I already have one Tundra in play, I do go ahead and just do the second. And we'll get some card advantage going. I have multiple Force of Wills for the, like, Sholdred, Karn, initiative creature sorts of things that could happen here. I could probably find a removal spell for that. But with multiple forces and a lot of card advantage on board, I think I'm comfortable just taking that out and not giving my opponent... Yeah, see, this is what I was talking about. And not giving my opponent half of their combo in play. I'm comfortable doing this. This puts a counter on both of these. This is a little awkward if my opponent has another Wasteland and Wastelands me off of white. But if I don't specifically hit land, ponder, or brainstorm with the draw that I do off staff, it feels kind of bad. Not the biggest fan of how this is shaking out here. I really wish I had the second Tundra so I could just activate. Pierce isn't a bad draw though. Heyo. We'll go ahead and do this now as well. Oh, that's great. So now I have something like a Karn covered. Yeah, I mean, saves me a card. My opponent could be paving the way for a powerful 4-drop to resolve. JK. In case I hit a... Well, I do just want to shark up this turn a lot of times. I'm not gonna draw now. That's not true. I'm gonna leave myself the option to Force of Will. I'm going to let that resolve and take the initiative myself. I think I just win that sub-game right now. I have more bodies in play and a decent amount of card advantage. Holy moly. Let's draw a card here. I'd like to just find a Swords to Plowshares. I will now ponder. Let's say no to that. Ancient Tomb. I'm gonna attack with 2 and leave back a creature. I can get a basic land. Grab a Plains. That way I can attempt to do this and luck into Swords to Plowshares here. I was not successful. Thoughtseize resolves. Goodbye, Shark Typhoon. Believe it or not, I will block. All right. And I think I'm just going down the right side here. Rotting Regisaur. That body is a little bit too big right now. Okay, sure. I think I just go down the right side. I think the selection here is more valuable than killing my opponent faster. Oh, Polymorph is batshit insane here. I will top both of those. Make a land drop. Draw the Shorikai now. I am going to do this pre-combat, by the way, just in an abundance of safety. In case my opponent's last card is like a Fatal Push. Oh, this is gross. This also gets this card. Yeah. That was impressive. It kind It kind of seems like if my opponent gets out ahead of me, things are kind of bad. But as long as I pump the brakes on stuff early on, it feels like I have much stronger card advantage over time. So I think I'm probably interested in this stuff. Healing doesn't seem necessary. March is very slow as a removal spell. It's nice if my opponent's build has Urza Saga. I've already seen Wasteland. The mana base for that deck really doesn't have room for that many colorless lands, but people are fucking greedy, and they try anyway. But like, this is just so mana inefficient at answering things like Opposition Agent. If I do this, I could cut like a Spell Pierce when I am on the draw. And that would be fine. I have to board differently if my opponent does have Urza Saga. I also don't know if my opponent has like some Null Rod type permanents in the sideboard that I really do need to answer. But I think I'm happy with this. I don't think I'm interested in this hand on the draw. Like, this is 4/4 drops with 1 land. All of my resources are going to go towards hitting land drops. I think I can just do better on 6 or even 5 than this hand. This is a much, much stronger hand. I'm going to keep it. And honestly, I think I'm going to get rid of the Brainstorm, as blasphemous as that sounds. Like, I know what this hand is about already. This is Menace? Menace. Him's good. That could have been much worse. Sure. Hey, now. Alright. That was a turn. I have more cards than my opponent, kind of. So now I get to play this game where I have to worry about Opposition Agent and Wasteland. I think I'm more worried about Wasteland. It's harder for my opponent to Opposition Agent me right now. God damn it. Okay. This is just giving them more time to draw it. But I'm not supposed to fetch here until I have another mana source. That occurs. The player cast. Play. There are conceivable worlds where they would use a delta. It's few and far between. I'll go ahead and Tundra, and then I'll get rid of that thing at end of turn. My opponent's in a much stronger position than I am. They just have land drops in play. Like, I have long-term card advantage, but this sort of thing is going to happen where I can't get these cards out of my hand, and like, this still just is damage if my opponent hits one more mana. Fuck me. This has turned out very well for my opponent. It's just an 8-point life swing per turn cycle. Because they gain 2, attack for 4, and then drain me for 2 on my draw steps, and my Brainstorms and Ponders just get worse. Yeah, this hand is totally different, by the way, if I keep 2 of my lands from the Hymn to Torox. Because then I can like play Staff of the Storyteller, like have a blocker that buys me. Oh, that's very good. So I will Swords that, but Hive of the Eye Tyrant will still get to just punch me to death here. Alright. Yep. I get to exile a card from my graveyard when this hits, right? Or when it attacks? When it attacks. Yeah, sure, that's fine. Edge against Snapcaster Mage or whatever. Alright. Yeah, my opponent hemorrhaged resources in the early turns using Dark Ritual and Lotus Petal plus their 2 hymns. Sure. That's a Dalthy Voidwalker with enough mana available to Hive of the Eye Tyrant afterwards. I will be conceding this game if my next draw is not a removal spell. This brings me to 5 and my opponent has 6 damage on board. That doesn't do it, and I don't have free spells. Well, yeah, March of Otherworldly Light isn't gonna quite do it here. Now I get this game where I am on the play, and I can consider bringing in another Spell Pierce. Again, March is so mana inefficient at what I want it to be removing, because my opponent is going to play 3 and 4 drop creatures. Force of Negation misses a lot of the creatures, but hits things like Karn and Helm, that can very much matter. If I can get into the mid game, I really like Mystical Dispute, just as a catch-all card. I think on the play I want another Spell Pierce over one of these. It's possible that I have too much at the 4-drop slot after bringing in 2 4-drops. And I should, like, not play Wandering Emperor, for example, to play one of these cards. I am going to do that. I'm gonna just get one more mana inefficient answer to a Rotting Regisaur or whatever. I can also just snipe some artifact mana that's played out. Nope. This hand is not great. They don't know that as the control deck I want to go to 5 here. I think I'm going to keep it pitching 1 fetch land and just call it good. I'm going to preemptively just fetch a basic plains. Not what I want my turn 1s and turn 2s to look like. My hope is that my opponent doesn't have, like, Dark Ritual into thing that matters immediately. I am hoping their first play is on turn 2, at which point I feel like I am in an okay position. Like Dark Ritual into Rotting Regisaur, for example, this turn is scary. Thoughtseize is fine. I lose my best play, though. Yep. Shit. Yeah, I mean, this is exactly what I was afraid of, right? Force of Will is literally 1 card too late here. But my opponent's game is pretty much all in on Rotting Regisaur. Like, it is going to be relatively hard for them to do another Huh? Okay. They really needed that soul land there. Actually, do I wait to cycle this? Like, do I just wait to cycle this and then just have 2 things that chump block Rotting Regisaur? I think I do. Ooh, nice. Okay. So I'm going to try to get my opponent to obliterate their own hand with Rotting Regisaur. Okay, yeah, they got rid of a Wasteland there. That saves my Tundra. Okay. Yeah, I think I'm going to... Maybe I don't cycle Shark Typhoon here. I'm gonna cycle Shark Typhoon and just get to them hellbent one way or another. Yes. I accept this. I will take the 7. Go to 5. At this point, let's just try to hit my next land drop or find Polymorph. I am not interested in any of that right now. A new Ponder is fine. Looking for the same things. Yeah. I will probably tap out for Shorikai next turn. I think I bury Ponder. Go ahead and do this. Reggie has them discard a card. They don't have anything left. And we'll go ahead and get that out of the way. Okay, I am fine with tapping out for this card here. I still have Force of Will available, or like an end of turn opposition agent or whatever. And this should kind of bury my opponent in cards. Okay, that's not what my opponent is looking for. I want to have 3 mana available for a Shark Typhoon token. Maybe I Shorikai first. Yeah, maybe I Shorikai first here. Ooh. I like Teferi. I will discard a Brainstorm here. I don't think I'm going to greed and look for the land drop here. Fatal Push is fine. Alright, so we have a whole bunch of card draws just queued up. I have Force of Will for something big and scary that my opponent plays. I just bounce that out of play, right? They can't replay it. Yeah, I'll just bounce that out of play. I don't need to use my Force of Will, which is a limited resource on that. Very static ability confirmed good. Alright. Bounce opposition agent. There's yet another Force of Will. Let's do this thing. Okay, there's a Polymorph. That's how I'm going to win the game. I will discard a Spell Pierce. I have Polymorph next turn. Let's hit another land drop here. Yeah, this is fine. No shuffle. Do this. Fetch. Tundra. And Polymorph should finish off this game next turn. That resolves. Lotus Petal resolves. Go ahead and... Oh, I actually don't get to Polymorph to remove Opposition Agent. That was dumb. I should have Force of Willed that. I don't think it matters, but it makes my life a little harder. Go ahead and draw 2. Oh wait, this isn't a search. This is a reveal. Yeah, reveal cards. All right. There's an Archon of Cruelty, which gets rid of the Opposition Agent. I made a land drop. No. And now, like, I have 8 power in play, plus an Archon trigger, plus a Teferi, plus a Shorikai, plus 4 counterspells backing it up. Hello and good luck. Alright. Yeah, and that's good enough to win the match. What am I, 3-1 now? This deck is slapping. Alright, I've got a bit of a tough hand here. I can keep this hand, but if I do so, I will be spending all of my resources in the early turns just sculpting my mana base, and that might be fine, but it may just be better to go to 6. I think with double ponder, I'm comfortable keeping this. See where it goes. Yes, I need a delta here. The Shurikai can be the card that I'm ultimately going to shuffle away here. Alright, good. Very happy to not just see Wasteland on turn 1. Potentially playing against 8 cast here. So the big question I have this turn is like, do I ponder now, look at 2 cards, shuffle, look at a 3rd card, or do I just shuffle prior to the ponder? Have the highest number of looks at a land. I think I just ponder now. I did indeed find another land. I don't think I want the Force of Will. Yep, so I'm just going to make a land drop and pass. I am... With my opponent making no play here, I'm going to draw the Force of Will. Just like... Things feel dangerous. I can't prove that, but... I'm uncomfortable that my opponent hasn't made any additional plays. And this means not traditional 8-cast. I'm not sure if I want basics. I'm going to take them, though. Let's see where this goes. It's in play, which is kind of wild. But my hope is to draw something. Or I guess I want a land so that I can Shark Typhoon into Polymorph. Prismatic Ending. Do I force? I think I force, because like a Teferi in play is sort of like an active counterspell to protect this Polymorph anyway. Nice. I'll just make a land drop. I can just plus Teferi again. I lose out on some value if my opponent has another Prismatic Ending for it, though. What are we doing? Fable resolves. Fable resolves. Oh, there's more. Soul Guide Lantern's fine. Looks like my opponent has an Urza Saga package in there. Just generic Jeskai deck. It's all fine. For 1 is fine. Draw my card. Force is cool. Let's junk this token. Spell Pierce is not great currently. Then a Shark in for a point of damage. And I will just polymorph this sucker with a Force of Will backup. Oh, I guess I didn't need to minus Teferi if I was going to do this. That's a misplay on my end. Alright, you can loot. I'm intending on just swordsing the backside of Fable in a minute and just being done with that. Okay, there's Saga. I can answer that for 1 mana with a March. That's fine. Staff. How do I feel about that? I think I let that resolve. Like, the token doesn't matter that much, because I'm about to attack and remove it. I just don't want to blow Force of Will on something that doesn't matter. I just have my opponent on a 2-turn clock with Archon as of right now. And I think that needs to remain the focus of this game. Oh, plus Teferi. Send in Archon. You can draw a card, that's fine. You can draw another card, still fine. Alright, they've discarded the planes. Take 5. March that Urza Saga. I've plus to Fairy already. Make a land drop. Ponder, I guess. Shurikai is fine if this game goes on longer. I'm fine drawing that. No shuffle. I'll hold everything else, though. You've got Reflection of Kiki Jiki now. Ponder's fine. I'm pretty likely to Spell Pierce another cantrip that my opponent casts. Maybe that's wrong, though. Like, double Swords to Plowshares is a thing that could stop me from winning, I guess. Alright, opponent's at 4. A Narset. I'll just Spell Pierce that. Not let my opponent look any deeper than this. Okay, we did the Polymorph thing. It looks like my opponent's heavier on the token theme, with like Reflection of Kiki Jiki, Urza Saga. I can dress down for the Urza Sagas. Not a lot of options here. I probably don't want Saheeli. I probably don't want Spell Pierce. Like, it has a lot of valid targets, but this game is going to drag on, and it's going to reach the point where those just aren't going to be good. My opponent's going to have red elemental blasts, which make a lot of my cards significantly worse. I might still need Force of Will to protect my Polymorph combo. I dislike the fact that like Archon is so bad versus Swords to Plowshares. Everything else in my deck is good against it, so like there's that. I'm going to sub 2 Force of Wills for 2 Force of Negations. They're easier to hardcast. I'm going to board these cards in. Thinking about Mystical Dispute. Just a 1 mana counterspell for a lot of things. I don't know, maybe that's less flexible Spell Pierce in a lot of cases. Gonna miss Rebs, for example. I can probably go down a Swords to Plowshares or 2. Like, I could reasonably play a Supreme Verdict. It's blue to pitch to these things and clears all the Urza Saga tokens at the same time. Do I want to go deeper? Like, do I want to Hydroblast for opposing blasts? Let's do 1. I'm glad that I'm up a game here. Conceptually, I think like my opponent's position in this matchup more than my own. This is a reasonable set of Magic the Gathering cards. I'm happy enough with this. I'll just go ahead and make a land drop and pass. Alright, the game begins. Sorcery Speed, Snapcaster Mage. Sure. My opponent said FML. I think that's not what they went for. Alright, my opponent's having a good time over there. I'm gonna grab both basics from my deck and go ahead and just drop a Staff of the Storyteller into play. Alright, sure. Okay, yeah, that makes more sense. So my opponent either just mistapped mana, or they very clearly have Red Elemental Blast. I will just trade with that body. That's fine. Alright, Wandering Emperor. That dodges Red Elemental Blast. I think I'm just gonna like play around Red Elemental Blast in this turn cycle and just march this staff before my opponent can draw their cards off of it. Looks like I'm just getting a Tundra off this one. March. Alright. Yeah, this is kind of why I wanted to remove the first one. Like, every subsequent one just gets better. Nice. I think I'm going to Ponder here. Like, I would love this Teferi to resolve. March? Polymorph? I am interested in these cards. I need the land. I'm going to go no shuffle. I think I go ahead and draw the March so I can take out their Staff of the Storyteller in the future. And I'll go ahead and fetch. Grab a new Tundra. I'll just drop my second staff. Alright, excellent. They get to draw their card. We'll trade some spirits for some spirits. Ooh, okay, my March has a new job. Fable's very good. The counter here. And I am very much on the defensive right now. Not necessarily in a bad way. Alright.
Red Elemental Blast is not currently available. A regular counterspell of some other kind is, though. I have 4 mana worth of stuff that I'd like to do this turn, but I'd really like to make a land drop. I'm going to go ahead and risk a Brainstorm here. Fantastic. Go back double Shark Typhoon. All right, 1, 2, 3. Attempt a Teferi. That's in play. I'm okay with just taking this as a value proposition and taking out the Urza Saga. I'm okay with Teferi dying. Like, Teferi has done the job that I need it to do. I've got Force of Will pitching a Shark Typhoon for one of the first things that my opponent does. I've got Wandering Emperor queued up. The biggest thing that I need to do is honestly just hit land drops. Like with double staff, Shark Typhoon, Wandering Emperor, like mana is currently my bottleneck more so than anything else. Goodbye, Teferi. Ponder's okay. No shuffle off the Ponder. No. Force of Will, pitching a Shark Typhoon here. See if my opponent has a Reb. They do, I kind of sniffed that out earlier. Alright, so we get some counters on those. I'm going to start by drawing a card off of this. That is very good long-term value. I really want to make land drops, though. Like, I'm going to go deeper in my deck here to try to do that. Alright. There is a land drop. It gets me to 4 mana this turn. Let's bury Dress down. Put a Swords on top. Drop Ancient Tomb. I think I'm just gonna cycle a Shark Typhoon and make a 2/2. So the spirits are gonna go ahead and come in. I am gonna do this for 2. And it's possible that this eats a Swords or whatever. But, you know, there's good value to be had. Alright, it does eat a Swords. Now I have this Swords for their reflection of Kiki Jiki. I'll go to 11. Ooh, they've got another play. Narset's very good here. So each opponent can't draw more than 1 card each turn, so I can still activate a staff on my opponent's turn. But my turn definitely just got worse. I'm thinking about whether or not I use Teferi to force through my spells. I think the answer is no. I think I go ahead and Swords this. And then play Wandering Emperor, make a Samurai, use that to pressure Narset. I think that's my plan. I am not going to telegraph the Wandering Emperor. But my opponent, like, oh, gross. I'm not going to telegraph this. I think this is important enough to not telegraph. Heals all these. Alright, I will take that damage. I'm at 9. Really need this spell to resolve. Do I take 2 so I can draw a card with Staff of the Storyteller here? Probably. Or no, I can't do that. White is the limiting factor. Alright, it's in play. Make a Samurai. Now the goal is to get this Spirit Token out of the way and kill Narset. F. And that fills these up. Again, it's significantly less good while Narset is in play, though. So let's Teferi. This is vulnerable to a Pyroblast. That's a Force of Will. My opponent has so many cards queued up right now. And I don't get to use my cards, which is rough. This Ancient Tomb is also starting to become a liability. I'm going to go ahead and just pass the turn here with the intention of activating my staff on my opponent's turn. Sure. I'm falling behind here. Alright. It now has become a game of protect the Narset, which is fine. Get to draw a card. That's not the sort of thing that I'm looking to draw here. That's not bad, honestly. We're going to send bodies into Narset until something cool happens. Yep, that's happening. I'm fine clearing the board here. And I'll do a big old Shark Typhoon on my opponent's turn and hope that works out.
And they've ancestraled off stabs this turn. I'm definitely cycling this. The question is, like, do I do the Ancient Tomb to make this a 5/5? I don't think so. I think a 3/3 is good enough. I think this just eats Swords to Plowshares or whatever too often. Lightning Bolt specifically is annoying if I don't increase my power by 1, or my toughness by 1 rather. Alright, attempt to kill Narset. Yeah, that's fine. This is a sorcery, so I can't just respond here. Tundra, and I'll play a Shorikai. I feel like this is an okay time to use the Dress Down as a counterspell. I think this is also worth life. We're just going to Dress Down this so that Snapcaster can't Pyroblast my Shorikai. I don't actually get to draw my card here. Alright, this is in play. I don't want to activate it right now. And Dress Down goes away, end of turn. Oh, this is a slog. Oh, that's rough. Do I make the token so that I can polymorph? I probably make the token here. I will discard a Hydroblast. Puts extra counters on these. My opponent can choose whether or not I get a gajillion cards or a repeatable source of being able to make creatures. Okay, yeah, and they give me the cards. Shorikai is just horrifying. That's fair. Oh, yeah. Oh, yeah. Ask Teferi. That's worth a Force of Will. I think I'm going for it here. Let's attempt a Polymorph. Ah. Alright. Okay, like, I still have 7 cards saved up under staff. I can only get to one of them a turn. But it's not like my opponent's running on empty, but I'm probably ahead here ultimately. A new staff is great. Drawing Archon is not great. Play staff. And every 1/1 threatens to just kill Narset, and as soon as Narset dies, it feels like this game is over in my favor. I just have 9 queued up cards. We'll draw a card here. I'll take the 2. Again, I want to be able to kill Narset. I'm at 5. Ooh. Alright. That's a unexciting but fine draw. Sure. Okay, no Mystic Sanctuary. Snappy comes in. I'll draw a card. Go to 4 here. Draws have not been kind. I unfortunately have to just pass the turn again. Go ahead and preemptively just draw. I mean, not what I want. It'll get the job done. I will just force that. I don't want those counters coming on stabs. Rough. I've got the front half of that covered via Supreme Verdict. I don't have the 3 cards that my opponent is able to draw covered. Yeah, not having access to Red Elemental Blast here is absolutely brutal. I can't just easily take Narset off the board. So I'm okay for another turn cycle, technically. I don't know that I can win a game 3 in time. Sure. I think I'm trying to win this one. I think I do that. Like, I think I do win if I get this Narset off the board. I don't think it's hard to control the rest of the game and, like, get an Archon. Oh, that's unfortunately a little late here. Saga's bad. Alright, there is a Caracas. So I pass turn, make a giant shark, hope it works out well. Kill Narset, do things. I'm missing Rebs here, and I'm also very much... I should have maybe thought about drawing my card before this ticked up. Another... No, I've used both my marches. JK. I am going to fetch. Let's make a big shark. Put a lot of counters on things. F. Yeah. Not having access to Reb here is brutal. Damn it. Play this.
Actually, I'm gonna just concede here and try to save 4 minutes for this next game. I think it's really hard for me to win a game in 4 minutes, though. Yeah, my opponent's interaction is just more efficient than mine is. So if I am going to win this game in 5 minutes, the plan is Polymorph, right? Like, that's just how I have to do this. So I probably have to become less controlling and more able to force through Polymorph doing its thing. I play Mystical Dispute as well. Like, how deep down this counterspell route do I go? And even something like this is not... Like, it's just going to eat it to Reb as well. Do I want Blue Blasts for opposing Rebs? Again, though, it's hard for me to cast like one of these spells with something other than Force of Will and Force of Negation up. Go 1 Narset. Or something like this. I've got a Polymorph and a Staff, yes. Remove the stop on my opponent's upkeep for the purposes of this game. Let's find lands. That's a land. No shuffle, pass. And even though I have Force of Will in my hand, I am going to just F6 my opponent's turns here, at least for these first couple of turns. I'm not going to like get rid of a cantrip or something in these first 2 turns. All right. Land drop. Fetch. Undra, Staff. Pass turn. That's annoying. Start by drawing this card. I can Shark Typhoon in this turn cycle. That's fine. All right. Urza Saga ticks up. Oh, it's got another land drop. Go ahead and just cycle this now. I'll put counters on that. Yeah, we're trying to rumble here. Go ahead and attack on in. Drop my opponent to 16. I'm going to ponder, looking for a second counterspell. Yes, kind of. Kind of. I think I'll still take it. Given where my clock is at, I don't think I am in the position to not go for it here. If I had 2 or 3 more minutes on the clock, I would wait this out. Pyroblast. Gonna force that, pitching a Brainstorm. And I get good value off an Archon of Cruelty. Alright, cool. Got a Force of Negation backing this up for if my opponent tries something, which is real good. My opponent can potentially like Pithing Needle my Staff here. Oh, they failed to find an artifact. Okay. They must have their Shadow Spear in hand, or otherwise they've boarded it out. I will Force of Negation that, because that bounces Archon. And that's good enough to steal a win and get us to a 4-1 finish with not a lot of time left. Ooh, that was a slog of a league. I'm very happy with the results here. I'm not sure that I would be willing to play this deck in something on the caliber of like a legacy challenge or a showcase challenge or something where it really mattered. But this is absolutely a great deck for your local level event, and I'd be perfectly comfortable playing leagues with this, honestly. Like, the deck was really good. I don't like some specific things about it. I cut Saheeli in every single round. It's a young Pyromancer effect. It costs blue, which like definitely matters in your mana base that has Ancient Tomb, Karakas, and 2 planes. And I felt like it was kind of one of the least essential cards. It is another way to keep refilling Staff though, so like maybe I underestimated this card. But when it came down to cuts, this was just the first thing that my brain was going towards just about every time. I don't want to play Hallowed Moonlight in Legacy ever. It keeps showing up in deck list. I don't really think it's good. I just think the mana cost, or I should rephrase that. I think the cost of leaving open the mana to get someone with Hallowed Moonlight is just
frankly not worth it by legacy speed standards. I did absolutely feel not having Prismatic Ending in my deck list, although March of Otherworldly Light sniping Urza Sagas came up like 4 times throughout this league, so like there is very real upside to playing that card. But this gets a thumbs up from me. I hope you enjoyed. If you have any thoughts about deck building, whether this should be in Jeskai, whether it needs more Ancient Tombs, whether we should just cut the Ancient Tombs so my mana's more consistent in the endgame, would love to hear those down in the comments below. And I hope you have a great rest of the day. See ya!